So you can summarize that. I have sort of three aphorisms when I do these lectures. I say my advice to attendees or participants is chase the maelstrom, find the chaos, go for the mayhem.
Yeah. Welcome to Beyond the Bit Quantum Pathways, the podcast where we explore the exciting world of quantum careers. I'm Amir Rasool, your host, here to bring you inspiring stories from industry pioneers, researchers and innovators who are shaping the future. Whether you're a career changer, a curious mind, or an aspiring quantum professional, this is your gateway to discovering opportunities in this groundbreaking field. In this episode, I spoke with Chris Bishop, author of Improvising Careers, Succeed at Jobs That Don't Exist Yet. Chris has built a fascinating perspective on the future of work, drawing on a lifetime of reinvention and experimentation. He shared the Future Career Toolkit, which are practical tools to help you navigate change, discover your value, and build networks that unlock new opportunities. We explored how to embrace absurdity, spot what's coming next, and reframe the future of work as something exciting and not intimidating. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. Hi, Chris. Welcome back to the show.
Hello, Amir. Nice to be with you. Thanks for inviting me to join you in this conversation.
Absolute pleasure. It's great to see you again. So, obviously, people will have known from my introduction who you are, so we'll kind of just get straight into it.
Yeah.
You've had 8 different careers so far: touring rock musician, IBM executive. I suppose the question is, when did it first strike you that reinvention was something that happened to you and a skill that could be shared for others?
Well, I'd say there were a few sort of pivotal moments. Probably the first one was I got invited back to my alma mater. I went to a small liberal arts school in Vermont called Bennington College. I have a degree in German literature, of all things, but I minored in music. They asked me to come back and talk about the various careers or jobs that I'd had as a way to kick off a set of senior week activities. And it sort of dawned on me that I'd kind of done a bunch of different, fairly interesting things at that
Yeah.
point. So I put together this talk and delivered it to a bunch of seniors at this college setting. And it was kind of hooked on trying to codify how I'd navigated these multiple careers and altruistically to put together some kind of methodology or toolkit, which is in my book, to help other people struggling with the same kinds of questions about what to do next.
Mm-hmm. It's obviously about, as we say, jobs that don't exist. I think one thing that you mentioned in the book is 85% of the jobs in 2030 don't exist yet. What kind of reactions have you had from that?
Well, it's funny. I think the people I've spoken to, and they range widely. I mean, my sort of initial target audience was early to mid-career millennials and maybe Gen Zs who are entering the workplace. But I've done it for 7th grade career day sessions with a bunch of hyper 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
And I've done it at Right Management, which is like an outplacement firm for senior execs looking for their next opportunity. And typically they get it. They realize that it's part of a pattern. I try to cast it in a socio-historical perspective. I'm a bit of an amateur economic historian. So I like to tell stories about we've been using tools and technology to help us solve problems and live better, since we were wandering around in the Pleistocene wilderness where the technology of the day was like a long stick with a sharp end. And today, here we are, as we're both involved in the quantum community where we're manipulating subatomic particles to store and share data immutably. So that's where we are today, but it represents changes in technology that drive careers and jobs and skill needs. And it's been going on for hundreds, if not thousands of years.
Yeah. I mean, I love, like you say, it's a historical journey, and some of the stories that we talk about, the Pony Express and so on, it reminded me about a series which I'd seen, which was The Men Who Built America, Carnegie, Rockefeller, etc. So coming back to that, obviously, you mentioned your Future Career Toolkit. For those that don't know it, but are going to go out and buy the book, can you introduce that for us?
Sure. So the toolkit came about as a result of me giving a lecture at a millennial workplace in New York City. And at the time, it was probably 5 or 6 years ago, it was sort of a bit pedantic, I would say, a little bit of self-criticism. Interesting, I think, to a point. But at the end of my lecture, a young woman stood up in the back of the group and said, "Okay, so how do we do it?" I was like, I hadn't really put that together yet. So I tracked down a friend of mine here in Connecticut, where I live, who's an ideation guru, and he has a whole portfolio of these sort of creativity activities. So that's
Hmm.
the basis for this toolkit. So the three tools are voice,
Hmm.
antenna, and mesh.
Yeah.
Three. The voice tool uses triggers like it's called semantic intuition. That's a sort of technical term for it. Triggers like what's your favorite book, movie, um, TV show, or game, and
Hmm.
what about it resonates with you? What makes you excited about it? What aligns with your sort of personal value system? So for me, for example, 2039, Blade Runner 2049, sorry,
Hmm.
is the movie that I selected because I love its vision of technology and society and culture driven by technology.
Yeah.
And then a book I chose is called More, the the economics from the Iron Age to the Information Age, because I'm fascinated again by
Yeah.
technology and business models driving skill and career needs. So I do that with attendees. We go through the voice. The second exercise is antenna, which is tracking down where conversations are going around the topics that you've teased out that were triggered by this voice exercise. And it could be elite newspapers, it could be TikTok, could be TV shows, could be comic books, wherever people are talking about these kind of topics. And I encourage people to track down, say, 4 to 6 topic areas, sources, if you will, and then put some kind of routine together. Like, how often are
Hmm.
you going to check them? Do you check them 3 times a day? Do you check them
Yeah.
once a week? Do you watch a TV show every day? So there's a routine about how you're acquiring this information and learning about these conversations. And then the third tool is Mesh, which is basically building a mega network. It's a lifetime activity. I'm
Yeah.
still doing it myself. I
Yeah.
admonish college students specifically to try to add 5 people a week to their LinkedIn profile. I encourage using LinkedIn. It's the lingua franca. It's the coin of the realm. I don't get
Yep.
paid to promote it, just FYI. But I find it very useful. Track down if you get to Friday at 5 o'clock and you haven't added 5 people to your network, stop what you're doing, put down the Game Boy, stop binging on Netflix, step away from the snipe on eBay, and put some Boolean parameters into LinkedIn or Google or whatever, and find people that are leading the conversations around whatever these topics are that you're interested in. So
Fantastic.
that's a summary of the toolkit.
Yeah. So you mentioned networking. Sometimes, I mean, people can find that quite intimidating. How does the idea of mesh reframe that?
So I know that it's selling on a meta level, right? There's a great book, by the way,
Yeah.
by Dan Pink, To Sell is Human. So
Okay.
we're all selling something, but it's
Yeah.
always a quid pro quo, right? It's like, what are you bringing to the conversation that's going to drive a business model or improve productivity or generate attributable revenue or make somebody in the value chain look good or be successful? It's always, what you're contributing.
Yeah.
I found that at IBM when I was hired into IBM. It was like I didn't get hired because I'd played bass with Robert Palmer and Chuck Berry, or because I had a stylish hairdo or pointy boots or whatever. I got hired because a woman running corporate internet programs knew people who knew how to produce websites and could deal in a corporate environment. So
Hmm.
that's always the model. So think that you have a value prop, which you
Hmm.
discover with the voice tool, as you're looking to build your network, build your mesh, find the people that will respond to what your value is, right? So if I went to try to get a job like teaching particle physics, I wouldn't get hired. But if I looked for an opportunity to share my future career lecture in a setting, say in a university or in an outplacement firm, based on my skills and experience, that would work. That would be viable for me.
Hmm.
So sometimes I even say, I know sometimes people are shy or apprehensive about the networking thing. I would say, if you're not sure of what you're selling, get clear about what your value prop is, and everyone has one.
Hmm.
Each of you, viewers, listeners, watchers, have a unique value prop based on what you know how to do, what you're excited about, what your interests are, and bring that to the market, if you will, to the workplace marketplace,
Yeah.
right? I've even said to some kids, like, if you're really apprehensive about it, take some acting classes. Find another persona, dial
Yeah.
into like, this is Chris Bishop, the selling guy. Hey, have I got a proposition for you?
Yeah.
You
I'd
know,
buy that for $1. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And then what would you pay? But the idea is, like I'm sure there are classes on YouTube, basic acting classes, or find a community theater in your neighborhood or a program in your school if you're at the university or whatever, and learn how to kind of dial in this other sort of vibe, if you will.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
and then it'll become more natural. You'll become more comfortable with it.
I love that because I think a lot of people, what I loved about the book and that message is don't be afraid, you know, find your voice, look internally and don't be embarrassed or scared to just find yourself, take time
Yeah,
and then move
yeah,
forward.
yeah. The
So,
other thing is
yeah,
know that it's gonna change, right? So,
yeah,
again, I've had 8, maybe 9 careers now as a published author, but when I was a touring rock musician, I
hmm
was reading New Musical Express, and I was captivated by musicians and records, and, now in the quantum space, I follow the bleeding edge companies that are pushing this technology
yeah,
and the thought leaders and the people that are moving this ahead so we
yeah,
can, take advantage of this amazing technology. So your voice is gonna morph and change over the course of your work life, if you will. So be ready to shift and move and change and adapt.
yeah, yeah. I suppose what's one simple way someone could start building their mesh this week? If you'd say step one.
Yeah. Well, so think about, again, the voice exercise. What is it that you're either that you're doing or that you would really like to do, right? So that's the voice piece. Then the antenna piece, find out where people are talking about this topic, whatever it is, topics, and it could be 2 or 3. Again, I
Mhm.
called out a couple in my example in the book, and then find the people that are leading these conversations. So as I mentioned in the book, I always contend there's a Miles Davis in every discipline. So for all of you young viewers who don't know who that is, immediately to Wikipedia and look him up, or do a Google search, or go to YouTube and check out some of his videos. He was a seminal trumpet player and composer who moved to New York from East St. Louis at age like 19 to go to Juilliard and end up playing with Charlie Parker and transforming jazz, basically.
Yeah,
So the modern day equivalents would be maybe Tony Hawk or Taylor Swift or LeBron James. I mean, seminal players who
yeah,
are leading the charge, leading the thinking around whatever topic you're interested in. There are people leading the charge in quantum.
yeah,
Souter comes to mind, for example.
yeah,
Good friend and another former IBMer.
yeah.
Track down who's at the top of the game, and there's always somebody, or if not a few people, and follow them, learn from them, study them, absorb their insight. Go see them speak if you can. Go to an event, watch their webinars, read their blogs.
Well, you've actually been helping me quite a lot in that respect, so which is proof in the pudding. Well, I love the fact that it's toolkit driven rather than theory, and it's really helped me bring my ideas into focus. And what I also love is the plan, and I've personally been able to put things down on paper, and you can start to see a chart and a journey. So I think it's fantastic.
Well, thank
So
you.
no, my
Thank you.
pleasure. Obviously, I know you, but some of our listeners won't. You've mentioned your 8 careers. Would you mind listing them for us?
Sure. So, right after I graduated from college, say 6 months or so, I got a chance to audition for a band called McKendree Spring.
Hmm.
Some of your parents might have heard of this band. This is like 1973.
Yeah.
They were formed in my hometown, actually. And when I got out of college, I was still in touch with them. And the guitar player reached for me and said, we're looking for a bass player. Do you want to audition? In fact, I never thought I'd get the gig, but I did, and ended up touring with them. We opened for the Eagles, for ZZ Top, for Fleetwood
Wow.
Mac, Return to Forever, Frank Zappa, Linda Ronstadt. It was an amazing experience. Recorded 3 albums with them. So the band did a typical bell curve. Who's McKendree Spring? Get me McKendree Spring. Who's McKendree Spring?
Yeah.
So as the band went out of business, I decided I'd move to New York. So I moved to New York City and played in a dozen bands at any given time. All different kinds of music, everything from Irish folk tunes to funk. I subbed on Broadway. I did Cats and Big River. Broadway was not my thing. Toured with Robert Palmer, played with Chuck Berry, and then came off the road at one point after one of my tours and said to my friends in New York, how do I sleep in my own bed at night? They said, jingles, man. You got to break into the session scene. So I did. Through sheer dint of perseverance and 3x5 cars, I tracked down everyone I knew in the jingle business, both at ad agencies, creative directors, and copywriters, and people running studios and singers and artists, and eventually broke in first as a player, then as an arranger, then as a composer, finally as a producer. So I had my first real job at age 40 running a synclavier at a jingle house in New York. Synclavier was the state-of-the-art digital musical instrument at the time,
Hmm.
writing music for television commercials. I played bass and sang on the first Kit Kat jingle. Give me a break, oh, give me a break. Yeah, break me off a piece of that Kit Kat bar.
Brilliant.
And got paid residuals for many years because every
Yeah.
time they run it, when you sing on it, you get paid. That was pretty cool. So that was, the jingle producer guy. I became intrigued by this wacky technology called the World Wide Web in the early 90s and basically taught myself to be a web producer and hung out a shingle, left the jingle biz, worked as a freelance kind of producer for a while, worked at a couple of seminal agencies in New York. And then, much to my surprise, through meeting a woman on the train commuting into New York, I got an interview at IBM and I was hired into corporate internet programs at IBM. And I worked there for 15 years in a bunch of different roles, exec comms, 2 stints in corporate headquarters, working in HR communications, out to the line, supporting execs with big P&Ls that had a B after them. One woman's target was 3 billion. Went back to headquarters, worked in corporate citizenship, did a lot of social media. We were working in Second Life 15 years ago for all you metaverse fans. Kind of been there, done it, seen it. Amazing. I was a huge fan,
Hmm.
but never really turned into much for IBM. And then got offered a package and e-tired about 12 years ago. That's big blue parlance for leaving the company. And worked for a woman, Jean Meister, who had a company in New York called Future Workplace. It was kind of a boutique HR consulting firm, and did that for a couple of years, but decided after, a couple of years, 2.5 years of that, that my real interest was empowering students or younger people, younger workers or learners. So I left her and started this boutique consulting firm called Improvising Careers and began writing this book and doing lectures at universities. I've done them in the US at Columbia, at NYU Stern, Duke, Georgetown, Texas A&M, Baruch. I also done them in the UK. I did one
You
at
have?
Oxford in June at St. Cross College. I've done it at Bayes Business School, London School of Economics. And so now I'm promoting the book and looking for opportunities to do lectures. Just a little plug for settings where I can deliver this lecture and the workshop using the toolkit.
Yeah.
So I think that's 8 or 9, including several at IBM. And I still play. I did a gig last Saturday with Otis and the Hurricanes, my local New Orleans R&B band.
Yeah.
We played a gig at this cool venue in Fairfield, Connecticut to benefit Operation Hope, a local charity that helps homeless people.
So, musician, IBM, World Wide Web, and for those that know, the reason why we came into contact, you're also quite active in the quantum world,
I
as well
am,
as
yeah, yeah.
the
Didn't
improvising
mention that.
careers.
Yeah. So I've been master of ceremonies for several of the Economist commercializing quantum
Yeah.
events, as well as events for alpha events, quantum.tech.
Yeah.
I've done events in London for them, in Singapore, in Paris.
Yeah.
Been hired to do that. And I've had a couple of podcasts. The first one series was called Quantum Tech Pod that I did for a great organization called Inside Quantum Technology. I did 76 episodes,
Wow.
conversations with C-suite execs at leading quantum companies, everyone from Jack Hidary and Ilyas Khan, Peter Chapman, and some brilliant scientists, many women executives, C-suite execs running or helping lead this charge at quantum companies. And then recently I've done a series called Qubit Confidential for alpha events and
Yeah.
had conversations with, among others, Zulfi Alam, who's the corporate vice president of quantum at Microsoft, including several other
Hmm.
quite prestigious and well-connected quantum personalities.
So it's interesting. I think one thing that comes across to me is that you seem to keep an eye on what's around the corner or what's coming over the hill, and hence you're in quantum. Not many people are, but you've World Wide Web, jingles, and now quantum. You're kind of looking, okay, what's the next thing?
Yeah.
I
So
think
I would
it's
say,
fantastic.
so you could summarize that. I have sort of 3 aphorisms when I do these lectures. I say, my advice to attendees or participants is chase the maelstrom, find the chaos, go for the mayhem.
Yeah.
To your point about looking around the corner. So in this case, where the royal they would represent existing business models
Mhm.
where they're apprehensive about maybe making a change, or find, where companies are at the bleeding edge. It sort of ties to the mesh exercise for sure. Like, where are companies that are doing something new and look for opportunities to join them, and then you can help create this new thing and be remunerated. Do something interesting.
Mhm.
I always say, don't work for the Pony Express. But I mean, I was running a synclavier in like 1991, which was the instrument that put a lot of musicians out of work. I always contend in 1985 in New York, music became data. We used to have these wonderful sessions with 6 or 8 or 10 musicians playing live in a beautiful recording studio in Midtown Manhattan. And as soon as samplers and sequencers and tools like Lindrums appeared, one guy or gal could roll in a rack full of equipment and basically do what this whole room full of musicians were doing. And it sounded good. It sounded good enough. So you had to either join the ranks of this new model or do something else. So I bought a Mac Plus and I learned how to compose on it. I bought some software, Master Tracks Pro, and I learned how to stripe a 8-track with SMPTE time code so it would chase lock the picture so you could dial in, assign the address for the sound effects so they'd speak at exactly the right time as the video went by. But it was a seminal change. It was sort of, again,
Yeah.
a real hands-on lesson for me about,
Yeah.
technology is changing. And I
Yeah.
have some skills that are transferable and some skills I'm going to need to learn.
Yeah.
Again, that's part of my message as well. You're always going to have skills that are valuable and useful, but there's always going to be a delta. There's going to be a gap. You're going to have to figure out,
Yeah.
what you don't know. The good news is there are lots of ways to acquire these new skills, everything from courseware offered by MIT online to Coursera to micro credentials, nano
Mhm.
degrees that are being offered, kind of niche skill specific training that you can acquire.
Exactly.
So
Fantastic. It's one of the things you talk about in the book. Obviously, you mentioned the toolkit, which is mesh, but the whole thing is it's about jobs that don't exist yet. And something that you refer to is that the traditional job as we know it isn't going to exist. And you talk about portfolio careers. For someone who's in, say, a traditional role now, what's a gentle first step that they could start or take to start preparing for this new changing world?
well, I'd say at a meta level, you've got to look for what kind of technology is going to transform your business. So currently it's AI for sure,
Hmm.
right? How is AI going to change your role? How are your colleagues using it? How are competitors using it from a company or enterprise perspective? And where's it going? How's it evolving? Certainly back to where's the money going, right?
Yeah.
Follow the money.
Yeah.
Like where are people investing? Are they investing in vertical specific solutions that will impact your enterprise and your role and your business and your organization? So track it down. And who are the thought leaders? Again, back to the
Mm.
the Hawk Miles Davis reference. Like, where are the people that are really leading this in your particular discipline
Yeah.
or vertical? And discipline can be marketing, strategy, legal, operations, procurement, whatever. And the vertical might be travel and transportation, legal.
Mm.
I mean, whatever business you're in, what are you selling? What's your go to market?
Yeah.
So connect those dots and stay ahead of the proverbial curve because your competitors are, and the people that are looking for jobs in your space are.
Hmm.
So just, find the sources where these conversations are going on and find the people that are leading the conversations and stay abreast. It's certainly a polymathic exercise. So I have a
Hmm.
chapter in my book called Think Like a Genius.
Yeah.
I would describe myself as sort of a curious polymath and autodidact as well, right? Teach yourself like the skills, figure out what you need to know, and then find a place to learn them.
Yeah.
And then again, knowing it's an ongoing process. It's going to
Yeah.
happen over and over and over.
And
And it's exciting.
it is, and this is what I love about the book, and why I wanted to get you on to promote the book is because I think it's come at such an important time. When you look at technology, like obviously AI is out there, everybody knows AI. We all use AI, ChatGPT, etc. But quantum's around the corner,
Yeah.
and I think it's important for people to know that there is going to be a seismic shift in jobs. But let's get ahead of the curve. It's time to kind of read the book, follow the
Yeah.
toolkit, and
Yeah.
analyze
Yeah.
where you're going. You've got
Yeah.
this is a tool to help you not get left on the not be beached, for want of a better way of putting it.
Yeah. And I mean, again, I try to cast it as exciting and empowering,
Yeah,
right? So, and it's, with all lack of modesty, it's not brain surgery.
yeah,
I mean, there are lots of ways to figure out where business and technology is going.
Yeah.
I mean, the space economy comes to mind, for
Yeah.
example. Robotics, we've just begun to scratch the surface of that. Bio IT, aquaculture. I saw a great segment on TV about they're growing seaweed in the middle of the North Sea off Scotland,
Mhm.
and using it for everything from food to packaging and
Yeah.
other sort of uses and applications. So,
Yeah.
track stuff like that down. Where is it heading? Where are we going to be?
Yeah.
What are the nation technologies today that are going to drive substantive business models in the next 5 years? Do the research. And, it's 2025, so it's easy to get this information. It's not like you require the town crier to go to the center of the village and stand
Yeah.
by the pole and tell you what's happening. In 2 seconds and a couple of thumb clicks, you can figure out where the next trend is happening. And back to follow the money, where do
Mm.
investors and companies, where are corporate R&D labs putting money, academic research settings? That's an indicator of where there's going to be job needs, where the career
Yeah.
opportunities are.
And what I love about that is something you said is be excited. I think a lot of people are pessimistic and they have a right to be, but there is seismic shift. Don't be the Pony Express evolution, but be excited about it. If you change your mindset to being excited about what's around the corner, all of a sudden your whole demeanor attitude will change towards your search. So I think that's perfect and great advice.
Yeah. And know that there are settings where your skills and talent and expertise and excitement are applicable. I mean, it takes a little research, a little hunting, a little jiggling doorknobs, whatever,
Yeah.
sending out resumes, but you have a unique skill set that's going to be valuable in the right setting. So get excited about finding where that setting is.
Yeah. Are there any roles on the horizon that you think companies or people should be thinking about now?
Well, I think again, they're always sort of evolutions of existing skill sets, right? I mean, again, for me as a musician, I had to learn how to run a computer. And then it translated into talking to executives with big targets about how they could use computers and
Yeah.
technology writ large to generate business value. So I think, again, looking for verticals that are expanding. And they typically exist at the intersection of historically disconnected disciplines. So some of the examples I cite in my lecture are nanopharmacy.
Hmm.
So the three chemists who won the Nobel Prize, I think it's almost 10 years ago, won it for developing, 2016, for developing nanomachines,
Yeah.
right? 10 to the minus 9. There's a $400 million building on the MIT campus, 6 floors of clean rooms where they're focused on this big time. And pharmacology, there are organizations, there's something called neural dust by a company called Ionic, like grain of rice sized device you implant that can generate ultrasound and also capture physiological data. But the idea of connecting nanopharmacy as a discipline, connecting mechanical engineering at the nanoscale with the ability to deliver pharmacology at the molecular, even atomic level to the wound or the tumor or whatever, that's a new field. And there are lots of fields like that
Yeah.
that are emerging. So, autonomous drones. Who's going to put together the plans for autonomous drone taxis, managing where they land, where they take off, who supports them, how they get updated, how they get maintained, how they interact with civic policies around transportation.
Hmm.
I mean, on and on, right?
On and on, yeah. But
Yeah,
it's
there's,
brilliant, isn't it? And
yeah,
in my lifetime, we went
exciting.
from I think it's from we went from getting up to change the TV channel, right,
Oh,
which was
really?
black and white. They went to color. We even had a twist knob at one point to being
Oh,
able to
yeah.
watch TV on your watch. Very Dick
Well,
Tracy,
exactly.
And now we're talking about nanotechnology. We're talking about farming
Yeah.
seaweed and space
Yeah.
exploration. And this is in the last 40, 50 years. That's
Oh,
crazy.
yeah. Well, the thing to keep in mind too is that all of these businesses have ancillary and adjacent businesses, right? So
Yeah.
again, I talk about it in my book, like you buy an iPhone, so that's one part of the value chain. But people make iPhone cases, they make bowls, they make handles, they make stands. I have a stand right here for my phone, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's and on and on. So there's
Yeah.
lots of ways to leverage a technology
Yeah.
as it appears, bring maybe a niche solution to it that'll generate value and attributable revenue. Yes.
Exactly. And another thing you said is every business that's being built will have departments in it, marketing, accounts, finance. So just because a new business is coming along doesn't mean those roles won't exist. They'll probably exist more. How do you market a
Well, yeah.
product or sell a product that hasn't been sold before?
Yeah. Like when I give a lecture called The Secrets to Working in Quantum. It's another lecture that I give. It's like these companies, and the risk of sounding glib, quantum companies,
Hmm.
they're not doing it for fun.
Yeah,
They're doing it to generate revenue, right? And
yeah,
deliver value for sure.
yeah,
But to your point, it's, while there may be, condensed matter physicists at the core of the business, there are executives who kind of run the business, who know how to run a technology company. There are biz dev people that are needed. There are UX design people needed. How do you touch this stuff? How do you turn it
yeah,
on, turn it off, interact with it? There need to be people associated with the organization that are interested in having and leading and driving policy and regulatory conversations. There are picks and shovels kinds of needs, someone to provide lasers and test benches, someone to do PR and comms, to take complex concepts and translate them into terms that a layperson could understand,
yeah.
a potential client or employer or investor or executive hire might be interested in. So, all by way of saying, there's lots of ways to get involved in new business, new technology driven businesses.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. So it's improvise and adapt, I suppose, is another phrase.
Yep, and continue to be curious and to
Hmm.
be ready to improvise and change and know that you're gonna do a lot of different things. I mean, again,
Yeah,
Bureau of Labor Statistics
yeah.
in the US a few years ago issued a report saying that today's learners are gonna have 8 to 10 jobs by the time they're 38.
You
And
know what?
that's,
Yeah,
mean deviation indicates some will have more, some will have less. But the thing that's compelling to me about that is it's a public sector agency with no agenda.
yeah.
It's not McKinsey or Deloitte or Accenture. It's like this is like a government agency saying we did the research and this is what we found. So take it or leave it. Do what you want with it. But I view it as exciting and very interesting.
100%. And that's what I loved about your book. I've been a recruiter for best part of 3 decades, and it's kind of been a very traditional role. And now I'm looking at, the fractional portfolio roles, and all of a sudden it's actually quite exciting knowing that you can, have a variety. You're not stuck in this one path. Adapt, improvise, move on. But and it comes back to voice, antenna, mesh. Even if you're doing it in the background, even if you're interested in role, you say, okay, well, what's around the corner? Let me start documenting this. Let me start putting this toolkit together, because it doesn't happen overnight. It might not happen for a couple of years, but if you start
Yeah.
aligning yourself to your own voice, creating a voice, and then tuning into the industry, the antenna that you're interested in, all of a sudden you're probably going to get there, which I think is, I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's, my contention is based on 15 years at IBM is after about 18 months or once you get sort of settled into your job, start looking for your next job, like
Yeah,
either in the company you're in or in
yeah,
another company.
yeah,
Another other two other sort of thoughts are think about what value prop you might bring to your existing role. What kinds of product or service might your company conjure based on your awareness of competitors or the marketplace or what peers are interested in? I even have an exercise where I say, think about starting a company that your company would want to buy
hmm,
that's addressing a gap in the market that you see clearly that they might not see because senior execs are focused on more meta issues or bigger
yeah.
picture perspectives or making their bogey. So that's the kind of thinking I would encourage, listeners, watchers, viewers, participants to.
Fantastic. I suppose another angle is obviously we're trying to educate the youth of today going forward. For parents who are wondering how to prepare their children for the future of work, what kind of advice would you give them?
I think that again, the meta message there is learn how to learn, unlearn, and relearn.
Yeah,
Be ready to change. Encourage curiosity. It's a muscle. You can flex it. You can develop it. You can train it. Encourage curiosity. Encourage inventiveness. Encourage innovative thinking outside the proverbial box, outside the lines, if you will. And also, the attendant guidance is encourage them to follow what they're interested in, do what they like to do what their passion is, do where they follow the green dots, if you will. I
yeah,
just contend this, the simplistic version of that is what would your mother say about you? Oh, that Chris, he's a very creative guy. He's interested in music, but he's also a science kind of a nerd a little bit. And so look for those kinds of signs and signals and nurture and encourage those kinds of areas in
hmm,
your child, right?
yeah,
And know that they're
100%.
gonna do stuff that's gonna look like magic to us. Just get ready. whenever I see sort of young kids, certainly, with parents that I know or friends or whatever that are, maybe 2 or 3 or even younger, I say, Mom, going to Mars, just a heads up, get ready. Some of them are going to either go to Mars or be involved in a program that deals with
Yeah.
Mars or put together, solving problems that don't exist yet. Like, how do you
Yeah.
put together an agricultural environment to nourish astronauts for 6 months while they're heading to the red planet? Like, that's a problem we haven't solved yet, but somebody's
Okay.
going to figure it out for
Yeah.
sure. And your kid may be involved in that.
So on that kind of segue, what's next for Chris Bishop?
Well, that's a good question. I'm really trying to engage with learners who are interested in my Future Career Toolkit and my perspective on how skills and careers change. So again, unabashed self-promotion. If there's settings where my lecture and workshop would be valuable, I'd love to come speak to your cohort or whatever. I'm doing a author talk in New York City on September 17th at a really
Okay.
cool place called Bibliothèque in Soho.
We haven't shown the book
And
yet, so
there's
we
the
might as
book.
well do that very quickly. Yeah.
Oh, there's the book cover. Yeah, yeah. And I'm going to play a little music. Actually, I have 2 members of Otis and the Hurricanes are going to join me. We're going to do a jazz tune. We're going to do a New Orleans blues tune. We're going to do a tune that I wrote. And then a woman from the publisher is going to interview me. It's this place called Bibliothèque. It's a bookstore during the day and a wine bar at night. It's a really cool space.
Fantastic.
So if anyone's in New York and watching this, come by.
And what date is that again?
It's September 17th, like 2 weeks from yesterday.
Yeah, fine. Well, this will be going out before then, so hopefully listeners will get the chance to come and see you.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to do more of that too. Author talks, talking about the book and playing some music.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for joining me today. This is the first time I've actually spoken to an author of a book I've read, so that's a tick for me.
Wow.
It's great. Yeah, no, it's fantastic. It's trying to get behind. We haven't got enough time for me to dive into all the questions I want to ask you, and this is to get people excited and aware of the book. It's for the stories. Absolutely. But it's for the stories, exercises, practical tools to help you navigate your own future. So, I recommend picking up a copy. I said to you off air that I'm in that process of reinventing, and I've got a few ideas, and they were kind of floating around. And by using your toolkits, it's actually helped me personally to kind of bring that into focus. So, I think it's fantastic.
Well, thank you, Amir. I appreciate the opportunity to share my perspective with your viewers.
More exciting explorations into the world. No, once again, thanks for coming here. As you say, the future isn't something that's happening to us; it's something that we can help create.
Yes, for sure. I'll see you in the future.
I'll see you soon. Thanks, Chris.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.